Hi again guys, and if you enjoyed the video, please mention it in the comments. You would also be doing me a big favour if you would ring the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already done so, that is. It costs you nothing to do so, but does a massive favour to the future success of the channel. I'll see you on the next one, but for now, ciao.
Looks like I belong.
John had a question. You had a
Yes,
question.
please, yes. I'm a non-believer, and I don't feel that I've sinned enough to, if there was such a thing as the pearly gates, I've not done enough wrong to be turned away.
Do you accept there's a God, or do you accept there's no God?
No, I don't think it's a God.
Okay, so because this question is all linked to do with about God's existence or not, right? So may I ask you then, because you are for me much older in age, in knowledge, in experience, so I am nothing compared to what you've gone through and what you've learned.
Right.
So I'm just trying to make myself humble here, show the humility that deserves speaking to you.
Thank you.
Respect.
Yes, do that.
How do you explain the existence of natural physical laws in our universe?
Probably the two suns bashing into each other, which started something off, and at the moment I have no other thought than that at the moment.
What I mean, with all due respect,
Yes.
we have our universe
Yes.
operating, being regulated by certain physical laws of our universe. The laws of electromagnetism, the laws of gravity, the strong and the weak nuclear forces. If you didn't know, that's what the physicists, the people of science will tell you. There are laws operating within our universe. Because of these laws, we're trying to unify under one law and see maybe one law can explain everything.
Maybe if one planet dies, that would allow another planet to come in.
That's not my
and,
question
and
at all.
hit it.
My friend, that's not the question at all.
Okay.
The existence, the very existence of physical laws. Let me make a comparison. I talked about zebra crossing. Now, it could have been a cow crossing. A cow crossing, no one's going to feel safe because no one's going to stop. Because there is a highway code, a law, in which it tells you rules of zebra crossing, what it means. So the highway code is a book of law, book of codes. Do you think such a code can write itself without an intelligent, conscious, willing, and able entity to codify it?
I believe that the world moves on. If you go back to however many billion years ago you want to, and the world won't look anything like what it is now. So things move on, things change. I'm trying to think of the word that means that. But when you start there and you finish there, animals change. For instance, you could have an animal that's got a tail, move it to another island, and it loses its tail because it doesn't need it. So what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I can't. Are you with me?
My friend, I was asking a very simple question about the highway code.
Well, yes. Well,
So,
I'm trying to say that things change.
Now, please can you explain?
It doesn't need a God
Please can you
to change.
explain, because you don't see the evidence of God. I want to now understand what is sufficient evidence for you. So that's why I need to understand the level of expectation that you have of evidence. So let's do the very basics. When we talk about the highway code, could you explain to me whether it's possible for the highway code could code itself be codified without an intelligent, conscious, able, knowledgeable entity codifying it? It can just simply do it by itself. The highway code itself can write itself.
Yes, I believe it can. It's got to start somewhere. Evolve is the word I was looking for. The world world evolves. That would be the highway code
So
evolves.
we would say that every change requires a rule. Otherwise, the change will be not of any meaning. So like the sun rise every day with a particular rule.
Yes.
The sunlights follow a particular rule. The tree grows in a particular rule. Even if the change, if you consider the change in the natural world, the animal world, everything is under certain rules.
There we get ice age. We get the other one, the hot age, wherever.
Yes,
that's
so
called, yeah.
your eyes and mouth, as we are talking about the standing, everything follows a
I
particular
don't
rule.
see that it needs a God to change it. And the other thing is, before I came here 6 weeks ago and started coming here and learning a bit about the Muslim faith and more about the Christian faith, I had no worries at all. I didn't have to think about God. I was just going through my life, done 76 years, didn't have to think about God at all. I've only been thinking since I got here, but now that's a worry to me.
Yeah, so
I didn't have any worries before.
No, the issue is that maybe you are not thinking about that because no one, informed you about that. But we are not always aware of things ahead of us. We are human beings. We grow and we grow older and then die at a certain point. So our life is, had certain points with longer time. Those people who lived thousands years ago, and they lived for a shorter time, but they are living in a state of death in much longer time, in the graves. So if you consider your life, then you will have a certain, myself also will have a period of time which will be in a state of our death. So should we be not worried about that or not?
When I look back quite a few years now, I had a niece. She died at age 21, and here I am at 76. She'd done nothing wrong in her life until she was 21. Why, if there is a God, why was she taken? Why was she not left? She was actually not the wife. She was engaged to not a priest, a Christian equivalent of a priest.
So the point is that God has designed us. We have not designed ourselves. We have not given ourselves lives, our teeth, nose. This design does not come from us.
Well, I can't understand why she was taken from her husband who loved her to death. That's the other thing when someone's taken.
That's the point of test.
It's not the person that's died, it's the people that they've left.
Yeah. So by her day, she has been tested. She has given a period of time or interval of time for her test. Her was her life, and the rest of the people, she has been tested with that time period, and yourself and other people are tested how you are reacting to that situation. Would you help her or not? Would you look after her children or other relatives of them? So this is your test from the surrounding people. For the surrounding people. So God is testing everyone. So that's why God has said birth and death, and between events, sorrow, difficulties, happiness, joys. We have not invented these concepts. We are just subjects.
But he doesn't help me get over it. My sadness.
Yes, so that's why he has given you the way. So he is calling you that come to my way, and you will get the help. So he will not force you because he has given you the free will, free choice. It's a choice. If God would intervene everyone's choice, then it would not be a exam or test.
So if I don't pray to him, which is what he wants,
he helps even if you do not pray. Like he's providing you food, he's providing you oxygen, everything.
Is that bad? What I'm doing, not praying, is it that bad that I have to be turned away at the pearly gates?
So what your conscience inner self says that if you should be grateful or not. If you help me, should I be grateful to you or not?
I just don't feel.
Gratefulness is if someone is ungrateful. Is that bad or not?
I don't understand why God Almighty, who is supposed to be good. Everything is good about him. He can allow bad things. I don't understand that.
will never be
after 76 years, I still don't understand.
The positive point that you have good view or positive view about God, that you are saying that He is Almighty, He is good. So that's
I live a
positive
Christian life. You know, the way I live is as a Christian in the things that I do. Because I don't do people any harm. I live as a Christian, although if that makes sense.
But the issue is here. I mean, the issue is here that if you understand God, and do you believe that we have some duty towards God? The point is that God has created us. God has created us. God is wise, so He has not created us without any purpose. You know. What is the purpose? So we have to know what is the purpose.
He hasn't come to me.
He
hasn't come to me. No.
He has informed us through letters. And governments, when some governments, put some order or something, the king does not come to you directly or to us, to me. He sends the messengers or some kind of. So he has sent the messengers and the books to inform that why you have been created, why this life, why birth, death, and sorrows and these things. So that's why what He expects us, or what is the way to success of our success He has designed for us. So these He has informed us. Have you read the Quran?
No, not at all. I've heard a lot. I've heard lots of things. So
God is Almighty. You are right. God is Almighty. He is loving. He is careful. He is Almighty. He is just, and He loves gratitude. And those are grateful. Those are forgiving. Those are humble. You know.
I remember things like Muhammad couldn't write, so he was illiterate, so he couldn't have written the Quran. God obviously can't write the Quran, can He? So things like that. Who wrote the Quran then?
God can send His message to, like we send emails or something like that.
Maybe.
So
you're pushing it now.
He can ingrain with prophets said, and He can say those species of God. So God can communicate to this person. So
It would have been better if He'd made Muhammad that he could. He wasn't illiterate, and Muhammad could have written the book.
The reason why this was the grand scheme of things, because if he was literate, people may be questioning, maybe he is smart enough to write something like that. Maybe he learned how to write and think about all these things. But knowing his community, knowing that he was unlettered, and then the Quran came to him, they could immediately recognize it cannot be made by him. There's no way this Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is able to produce a book like that, talking about history, archaeology, talking about economics, talking about justice, talking about science, talking about anthropology. Every avenue of science or scientific understanding or our avenues of knowledge, the Quran covers all of these things. So this is a sign to us to say, look, think, how can you somehow, say this particular individual is able to write such a book like that. Imagine you have not studied science, and then you come to me and say, here is the scientific paper to publish on the best well-known scientific journal. And if I look at it and say, then I ask you, do you know anything about science? And we realize that you don't. And I was saying, come on, that cannot be your work, right? Because there's no way you can produce something like that. Like if I ask you now, can you produce the next generation of iPhone 17?
Well, to say no, haven't we?
Yeah, but if you brought up the manual, the way of making, method of making, all the calculation, the physics, the maths and so on, and people say, looks like it, because that's iPhone 14 now, or what is it?
15 or 16.
15, 16, whatever.
16.
Currently this is it. So yeah, it looks like it. This is some modifications to it.
Yeah.
This is exactly what people can see from the Quran. It is not possible for someone at this time or even today. I want to add a bit more there. Quran has that divine hallmark so that we can know for certainty that it's from God, because people are questioning, how do I know it's from God? How do I know God exists? The Quran says, produce a single chapter like this Quran, a surah, or a 10 chapters, 10 surah, or the whole book like it. For the last 1445 years, people keep trying, but they've been failing to produce something like this because God composed the Quran, delivered it in such a way.
700 years after the Bible.
Yeah, roughly so.
How does that work? So do the Muslims need the Bible?
No.
Whereby Christians don't need The Quran.
Muslims don't need the Bible. I'll explain to you why. So here, God is saying, thus has He revealed to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to those before you, Allah the Exalted in might, the wise. To Him belongs whatever in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, and He's the Most High, the Most Great. The heavens almost break from above them, and the angels exalt with praise of their Lord and ask forgiveness those on earth. Unquestionably, it is Allah who is the forgiving, the merciful.
I didn't really understand all of it. It's something I'd have to sit down and read 7 nights a week in bed.
Of course, this is for you as a gift from us.
Keep it, yes.
Now, what we're saying is, so Quran challenges people to falsify this book if they don't think it's from God. It challenges the elites, the people of knowledge, because that's how you can establish something true, rather than simply saying someone who cannot do that. So, to know God, it's not that difficult to know, because we know, for example, I can't make this camera. I don't have that knowledge to do so. This world is more complex than the camera. You and I know that. So, what made that world? Scientists often try to deceive some people by saying, dogmatic scientists, not genuine ones, it's all about evolution. But evolution only deals with life. It doesn't deal with physical matter like the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies, and so on. So when we see all the galaxies, they're all rotating in a specific manner. When we look at even to the very micro, smaller level in your body, like go into deep, smaller units, we call atoms, and you break down into quarks. There's laws operating within it. That's how we are structured like that. Why am I not suddenly becoming like a potato at this minute?
One more question then. How do we know there's not more than one God?
Excellent
Maybe there's one God, covers it all. We just think there's different gods, and you're praying to half a dozen different gods. Maybe there's only one.
Excellent question. What's your name?
John,
I am Mansoor.
that's from the Bible.
John, I am Mansoor. Yeah. Very nice meeting you. Pleasure speaking to you.
Maybe I've been put here this last 6 weeks to learn a little bit. You never know, do you? Well,
so everything indicates that these things, the trees, the sun, the moon, the galaxies, they cannot just simply pop out into existence from nothing by no one. There is a creator, a maker, who made it. Now, the next question is, once you understand that this is the case, maybe there are many gods, like some people say.
Or only one.
Or only one. Absolutely. We believe there can only be one God.
Yes, but it doesn't have to be yours.
Right. So let's exclude many gods first, right?
Yes.
What if there was a possibility that there was more than one God? Each of them were absolute in their power, in their might, in their knowledge. Yeah. Imagine now one God says...
I don't like that idea. They'd be fighting each other.
Exactly.
One would finish up
exactly.
Satan, actually, wouldn't be a god.
One God would say, I don't like John.
Yeah.
I want him to become into now a cauliflower. Become a cabbage.
A 76-year-old cauliflower.
Yeah. Now, the other God says, no, I like John. Yeah. He's very honest, very sincere, truthful, a man of integrity, righteous character, caring.
And I'll give him a bottle of scotch.
Right. Caring, and he's going to avoid things that's going to befog his mind, like alcohol and scotch later, inshallah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because it does befog people's minds and impairs judgment. So, the other God says, no, I want him to be as he is. Healthy, caring, loving, nice individual as he is. What's going to happen to John? Is he going to turn into a cauliflower, cabbage, or is he going to remain John as he is? Those two gods are going to fight over each other, right?
Yes.
What's going to happen? Possibility? You remain as you are, then the God that wanted to make into a cabbage is not God, because it failed.
If I get a choice
it's going to fail.
If I have any say in the matter.
But what I'm saying is, a God that wanted to make you into a cabbage and couldn't make you into a cabbage is not God, because he's not almighty.
Okay.
The other God who wanted to keep you as you are is God. And if you turn into a cabbage, then the other God which wanted to keep you as you are, John, is not God. See, either way, you can only have one God.
Almighty.
So now we understand there can only be one God. The question is, who is that one God?
I have another question there, which I half brought up a minute ago, and that is, we're talking about the 700-year difference. Who was the Muslims praying to in that 700 years when there was no Muslim God?
Sure. So in our perspective, belief, Muslim is a practitioner of Islam. Islam is the religion, the way of life. Muslim is the one who follows that way of life, right?
Yes.
A Muslim is someone who submits and surrender their will to God. Whatever God says, do good, I submit to do good. Avoid evil, I submit to God to avoid evil. That's what a Muslim means. To follow the will of God and submit to the will of God. Now, is this something that was taught by God before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before 700 years? The answer is yes. First human being that was created, I'm sure you've heard about that story, Adam and Eve. They were Muslims. Why? Because they were commanded with the same teaching to submit to God. Subsequently, every human beings were taught to be Muslims, to follow Islam, which is the submission to God. So Christ, Jesus, the son of Mary, brought Islam, didn't bring Judaism or Christianity, brought the religion of submission to God, worshipping God alone. He was a Muslim, he asked people to become a Muslim. It's a misunderstanding because people start thinking Islam is an Arab religion, Muslim means an Arab, you have to become an Arab. It's not that.
It's not far from Judaism.
It's the concept.
Is it
Judaism
is very close.
Exactly. Judaism had that teaching too. You worship none but God, one and only God. So what they sort of went wrong is when they stopped following the future messengers that came to them. Because when another messenger comes, he comes with correction of what may have gone wrong, because people changed the books, changed the religion. Or a prophet and a messenger may come with additional guidance, rules, which is needed for them, which in the past was not needed. Or the guidance that comes now is going to be complete for everyone. So people of the children of Israel, God gave them a specific way of living. It was only for them. Instruction was for them. It wasn't for the Chinese or the Ethiopians or the English. Only for them. So when Christ came, he came to this group of people as well. He didn't come from the French or the Germans. People misunderstand when he says go and preach to the all nations. He meant the 12 tribes of Israel. So after they left their duties and they passed away from this life and their duties, Christ, we don't believe he's dead. God took him up from the oppression of being killed and crucified. He will come back again at some point and he will die. God sent the final messenger for all people. So he's no longer a messenger, a prophet for a specific group of people, but Quran tells us that he is a messenger for whole of mankind. And the guidance is for all of the people at all times. That's why you don't need another prophet and another messenger. So what did people call 700 years ago? They're all calling to God. They were supposed to. But those who did call upon God, worship God alone without ascribing any partners, followed the will of God, they are the ones successful to go into heaven. So we don't say, oh, no one is going to go to heaven. No, anyone, at any time in history, whoever submitted their will to worship one and only God and followed the will expressed through the prophets and messengers of their time, like a Jew individual, a Jewish person, at the time of Prophet Moses, if they followed that law and guidance from Prophet Moses, upon him in peace, and they died on that state, they go to heaven. So to be a successful individual, all one people needs to do is follow the messenger who's current and submit to the will of God. And now today, who do we have? Which prophet who's current? Prophet Muhammad. So that's what you need to do. You believe in one God.
He's
Makes sense to you?
growing in popularity.
Yeah. So you, my friend John, you know there's one God and you believe in him. Do you think he's the one worthy of worship?
I don't think there's one God. I don't think there's any gods. But I would accept if there had to be a God. I would hope there's only one.
Absolutely. So the question now is to confirm to you, John, whether there is indeed a God. If there was no God at all, I say there should be nothing. There should be nothing. This wonderful world that we live in, where the water defies gravity and goes up the roots of the tree and all the way up to the branches, because gravity means pulling down. Imagine you leave some water on a bowl. Would the water just climb up? It doesn't climb up. But that's what happens in a tree. It goes around.
Scientists will tell you that's evaporation and explain how it happens.
No, scientists tell you the law, the process and the law.
Describe the walk of
Yeah. What made that law? Who made that law, rather? That's every time we will say it's the lawmaker. The lawmaker is not a scientist, because they only discovered that law. They didn't make it. They discovered meaning they found, and they have now come to know that this is the law that's operating. The scientists didn't make that law. Our parents didn't do it. Who could have made that law?
someone intelligent, wise.
Someone who is intelligent, someone who's the ability. And who is that someone other than God? You tell me, John. If it's not God, you can tell me now. Who is intelligent enough, able enough to make such a law?
That one I don't know, but what I do know is there's some marvellous magicians in this world that you couldn't, that can have a blanket and turn it into, and an elephant comes out of that blanket 10 seconds later.
It's illusions of the eye.
Yes, it is. But I mean, that's something.
They can't make the law.
But these are
No,
laws,
but they
yeah.
can do the tricks, and the tricks.
But we're not talking about tricks.
No, but they are, aren't they? Because sometimes
Yes,
you look
they
up
are.
in the sky,
They're tricking.
and something happens up in the sky, and people millions or a few whatever years ago couldn't explain that, what it was up in the sky that was coming down, maybe meteorites, smashing
We are
up
not
the
talking
earth.
about those types of gods. I mean, we are talking about the God who is involved in our daily life. He has created my eyes, nose, and everything. We can see his actions.
A good
Not-
example of what I'm trying to get over is when the seas opened 700 years before Jesus, and then it was in Moses. He opened up the seas. Now,
By the power of God.
You say that, but I was in Ibiza in a bay when the tsunami we had a few years ago, and I was there when it happened, and the bay emptied of water, and 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, it came back. Now that to most people would have been an absolute miracle, but we knew what it was. 2,000 years ago they wouldn't have known.
Can you do it now?
No, not unless we have a tsunami, but then it would happen again, wouldn't it?
Those types of external events needs special situations. In normal days, normal day situation.
Very quickly, Moses would have got not the blame, but Moses would have got that one, wouldn't he? He'd have said, "That's me. Come on, let's get across the bay while it's empty."
That was not a coincidence. I mean, because Prophet Moses was using his staff for various events, like in a dispute in the court of Pharaoh. So it's a consistent. I mean, yes, you can make those. I mean, even people can move the waters,
Yes.
But that requires a special setup. But God, being the lawmaker and the enforcer of universal laws, He can change as He wish. I mean, He is the one. He is the one who has made these laws with purpose, and He is enforcing.
Yeah, if
So
you're,
with His
if you're
ability
right,
and power, He has created these laws with His knowledge, ability, intellect, wiseness, and He is enforcing them with His might, power, and making these events unfolding flowers, birds, our lives, joys.
if you're right, if you're right, then it was your God that made the tsunami that caused the bay to empty out.
Yes.
So
It is God's
So
will.
now we want to understand the will of God. Who gives us life? Do you think it's our parents?
no, I suppose so. Yes, it has to be. Without them, we wouldn't be born.
If our parents have the ability to give us life,
Yes.
if I died as a child, because they had the ability, they could just give me life back again, right? Can any
So
parent?
have another one, you mean?
No.
Of the same child.
We're talking about the ability to give life. If we say our parents gave us life, then that means they had the ability. So if I died as a child, if you died as a child, if anyone dies as a child now, and parents have the ability, they should have the ability to give us life again, to the same own child. But
Some
the fact,
do in hospital, though,
no,
don't they?
no.
When you go to some come out of hospital alive.
I'm saying, if you see a child dies, do you see any parent in the world today has the ability to give life again to that child? No. So the parents, that means the parents do not have the ability to give life. Life came from somewhere else, someone else. That's what we're saying is God that gave us life. If you say it's not God, I'm going to ask you this question. Who then? Because the parents definitely can't, because if they had the ability, they could give us life again and again every time we die.
Why doesn't God bring them back instead?
That's not the question. He will bring back again in the day of judgment. He gives us one life as a test, and that's how you behave, whether you're good or bad or not, and then you'll have the consequence as we were talking about. If you do good, behave good, then you'll have a good reward.
I have.
If you have,
I behave very good.
If you are evil, then you'll have evil reward. Are you grateful to God?
No.
That's the problem.
No.
We need to be grateful to God to have that key to paradise.
I did steal some sweets from a sweet shop.
So we're saying, look,
John, stop me going into those pearly gates.
Brother Sarwar earlier on asked you about these things. Okay, this is quite important. So when we're talking about gratefulness, if you help him in whatever way, remove him from almost being killed, took him to the hospital and all that, his natural response would be one of gratitude. Say, thank you, John, for helping me out. Thank you for saving my life. Yep. God gave us the heart, the lungs, the stomach, the brains, the eyes, the ears, everything. And how many of us are thankful and grateful? That's what's needed.
We have to acknowledge the relationship
more
with God.
Muslims and Christians.
So we need to now show the basic level of gratitude to God to be considered to be going into paradise.
That's if you believe that he had something to do with it.
But you and I know, John, now there is God.
No, I don't know that.
So what else do you need to know that God exists? What would convince you, my friend John, that definitely, if you don't tell me that I will believe in God?
He'd have to come and visit me.
Hi again, guys, and if you enjoyed the video, please mention it in the comments. You would also be doing me a big favour if you would like, ring the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already done so, that is. It costs you nothing to do so, but does a massive favour to the future success of the channel. I'll see you on the next one, but for now, ciao.